Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Wednesday edition of the show, our last episode of the week with the 4th of July coming up tomorrow. So we are saving the best for last as we try to create some fireworks of our own before America's birthday, talking about bold predictions for the Bucs, specifically for this 2024 season. How many of them will come true? Are they within the realm of possibility? We are going to break it down on today's episode. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, you ready for a blast of an episode with 4th of July right around the corner?
I love it. I love your segues, your transitions there. Mark Cook would be proud with those. So that's awesome. Yes. So I am, and I've got my Air Force shirt on today.
Nice.
Representing.
Very cool.
My son Caden is in the Air Force Reserves. He's at tech school, so wearing this in honor of him today, and we're excited about the 4th of July, Independence Day tomorrow. So no show tomorrow, so we're going to make this one extra good, twice as good for you Pewter people out there. And once again, Matt Matera with another fine topic for today. This will be a fun one.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I can't take all the credit for this one. I think this is really a joint collaboration from everybody in pewterreport.com, because this really spawned from a Pewter Report roundtable that we had last week about everybody coming up with a bold prediction. So you and I both came up with one. So did Bailey Adams and Adam Slavon, and of course, Josh Capo as well. So you could see all those bold predictions over on pewterreport.com. But then you and I came up with some more that we're going to get into today. And it's a fun topic because, yes, we can kind of stretch things out a little bit. And odds are, we came up with 10 total, 5 from me and 5 from you.
Yeah.
The odds are most of these won't hit. But if one or two of them do, most likely it'll be good news. I did a little positive, a little negative as well, to try to be as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
And, we didn't come up with anything like Rachaad White's going to rush for 3,000 yards,
right.
Like something like totally insane. So I think we both did a good job of taking something that is bold, something that's probably unlikely to happen, though it would make sense if it did come to fruition. So I'm excited to get into these lists. I think, it's a good way to get the juices flowing with training camp a couple of weeks away. And, if it does get right, hopefully some of the Pewter people will be like, hey, you called it on the July 3rd show. This is going to happen.
That's right. I am dropping in the chat right now that article from last week, which is our PR roundtable. And that had all of our predictions in it. We each did one prediction. When I say we, it's myself, Matt Matera, Bailey Adams, Josh Capo, and Adam Slavon. And then Matt and I took it a step further, and we said, let's do a show around this. But since it's Matt and I, we need to come up with more bold predictions. So we did just that. So without further ado, let me read off the Pewter Report predictions from the other Pewter reporters from a week ago. Bailey Adams said, Lavonte David finally returns to the Pro Bowl, then retires. So that's kind of a good news, bad news situation there. Lavonte gets another Pro Bowl to add to his Hall of Fame resume. He needs as many as he can get because that is something that's big when it comes to the determining factor, who gets in Canton and who doesn't. But then, of course, he rides off into the sunset, kind of like Ali Marpet did. Retired prematurely, Marpet, after getting his first Pro Bowl nod after being snubbed like Lavonte for years. Josh Capo said, Zion McCollum emerges as an above-average NFL corner. So that's his bold prediction, above-average corner. But when you really break down Josh Capo's terminology, above-average means actually good, like really good. He's just not as flowery with the praise as some of us are. And then Adam Slavon, he said Payne Durham finishes second on the Bucs in touchdown receptions. So that may seem like a bit of a stretch, right? Well, no. Cade Otton actually finished second in touchdown catches last year behind Mike Evans, believe it or not. Ahead of Chris Godwin, ahead of Trey Palmer, ahead of Rachaad White. White had 3. Godwin had 2. Palmer had 3. And Cade Otton had 4. So as crazy as that may sound, if Payne Durham uses that big 6'6", 255-pound frame in the red zone that he was able to use quite a bit at Purdue, catching a plethora of touchdowns, then stranger things have happened before. Don't rule it out. So those are the three bold predictions from a week ago from the other Pewter reporters. And Matt, we'll maybe start with your list here today. Let's go with your list and go down your five. Of course, the one that appeared in, I should say in print. I'm an old Pewter Report magazine guy. The one that appeared on publication on pewterreport.com that you had, the first one was Chris Godwin leads the NFL in receiving yards. So let's just go through these because we'll kind of rattle them off real quick because people can see them. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you haven't seen them, so we'll share them with you. Number 2, Tyke Smith makes the all-rookie team. Number 3, Logan Hall is replaced on the D-line. Number 4, Kyle Trask, that's the guy featured with the ball there, starts a game at quarterback. And then number 5, Rachaad White breaks the Bucs single-game TD record. So very interesting choices. Let's start off with the one that was in the PR roundtable. You say Chris Godwin's going to lead the NFL in receiving yards, man.
Yeah, so we'll kind of go through each one, break it down, and then, if you have any other comments, Scott, feel free to chime in. Yeah. And same with the Pewter people as well, whether, you agree with it, whether you think it's possible, whether you think this is just out of the realm of possibility. Love to get everybody's feedback on it. But yeah, starting with Chris Godwin leading the NFL in receiving yards. It's one thing to say he's going to lead the Bucs in receiving yards because that's really just him versus Mike Evans, if we're being realistic. To say that he's going to lead the NFL in receiving yards, the reason why I feel pretty good about this one, again, overall long stretch, but how I think it can be done. What was the big news regarding Chris Godwin and really the Bucs wide receivers this offseason? It's that Chris Godwin is moving back to the slot, and that's where Chris Godwin is his best. Yeah. And of course, Liam Cohen loves to get the ball into the hands of his playmakers, and that's Mike Evans for sure, but that's also Chris Godwin. And, Liam Cohen comes from an offense. Now, he wasn't with the Rams the season that Cooper Kupp had the Triple Crown year where he just dominated in receptions and receiving yards and touchdowns. And he wasn't there last season with Puka Nacua, but he was there to see the progression of Cooper Kupp. He does run that style of offense. So Chris Godwin moving back into the slot, it's great because that's where he excels. But more specifically, he dominates in the slot. If you want to go back to the 2019 season where he really had his best NFL season of his career, he had 1,333 yards and 9 touchdowns. Those 1,333 yards was third best in the NFL. So it's not like Chris Godwin has never sniffed being the elite of the elite when it comes to wide receivers in this league. And he surpassed Mike Evans a couple of times. He did it in 2021 as well, when he missed a couple of games because he had that season-ending torn ACL. So, yes, he has that competition right in front of him with Mike Evans, but he's gotten more yards than Mike Evans before. Mike obviously has the accolades of 1,000 yards after 1,000 yards, but Chris Godwin has gotten close before. Some things that might hurt him, of course, is guys like Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow was injured for a majority of last season. So you got to think Chase's numbers are going to go up. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson got hurt early on in the season, kind of in the beginning of the year. And that was a reason why his numbers didn't, catapult to the top as well. So sometimes you need the right bounces and things of that nature. But I think Chris Godwin has an opportunity with him moving to the slot and working with Liam Cohen.
Yeah, you know what? It's not as far-fetched as it may seem. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily think that. I mean, but this is a bold prediction, and that falls under the category here. And because Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have had monster numbers in terms of receiving yards, and let's not forget, the Buccaneers have an arsenal where you have to pay attention to a lot of other targets. Mike Evans, number 1 at that list. So Godwin, I think going back to the slot, is going to have plenty of opportunities to take advantage of lesser guys in pass coverage, meaning linebackers in zone coverage, safeties, nickel corners, which traditionally are, cornerback number 3 on the depth chart, right? So yeah, I mean, I've kind of seen it before a little bit in 2019, which was Godwin's first year in the slot under Bruce Arians, and it could happen. It could happen.
That's the hope for sure. So this second one, this is more of a hunch more than anything else. And the second one we have listed here that I have listed is Tyke Smith makes the all-rookie team. So the hunch that I really have in this bold prediction is, first of all, Tyke Smith has to win the nickel starting job. Now, he's going to be in competition with Christian Izien, who had it last season. He's going to be in competition with Tavier Thomas, who they signed from the Houston Texans and is known for playing in the slot as well. But man, just watching Tyke Smith and knowing the instincts that he brings, what he did at Georgia, what he did at West Virginia as well, just knowing what he can be, seeing him in practice, the instincts, the intangibles, the things that you can't coach in a player. Yes, you can watch film and you can do certain things, but sometimes it's just you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
If he can win that nickel corner job, that is one of the positions that you can make the all-rookie team with on defense.
Great
and
point.
The reason why I picked that is because Brian Branch, who we were in love with last year and then didn't test well at the NFL Combine, he fell to the second round and got drafted by the Detroit Lions. And he started his season with a bang, getting an interception off of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in that first game of the season that was on Thursday Night Football. Now, Christian Izien did the same as well, but Brian Branch was able to sustain his high level of play for the entire season. So to bring this back to Tyke Smith and the Buccaneers, if he wins that slot corner job and can be consistent, I don't think he's going to have a crazy amount of competition in terms of rookies playing in the slot and playing at nickel corner. So with an overall entirely improved defense of better pass rush from the front four, Antoine Winfield Jr. working with Jordan Whitehead, a better back end, more sustainability at corner, hopefully, if Zion McCollum is healthy for a whole year and Jamel Dean can get healthier. I think he just needs to win the job, and then it's just him against maybe 2 or 3 other rookies for the nickel corner opportunity. So I think Tyke Smith getting first team all rookie is a likely possibility.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just like Graham Barton, right? There's not going to be too many rookie centers starting.
Exactly.
So he's got a very good shot of being on that all rookie team. And listen, Tyke Smith was a favorite of mine, yours, Josh Capo, Todd Bowles. I mean, a lot of people liked this guy at Georgia, and of course, he was a Bucs best bet. And if he stays healthy, I do think he is the odds-on favorite to win the job. And I don't know, man. You go back and you look everywhere he's been, whether it's the first 2 years at West Virginia, the last 2 years at Georgia. All the guy does is just make plays. So I think this one for sure, more so than Godwin, is more likely. And yet now you're 2 for 2 on some very good bold predictions here. We like these. Let's keep them coming here. Let's go to number 3.
Actually,
Logan Hall.
Let's not go to number 3 just yet, because I do like these, but I really like super chats. So thank you to Mike Wells with this $5 super chat. And if you want to super chat us, you cut the line. If you have a bold prediction and you want us to say it out loud on the show, super chat us and we'll say your bold prediction. As Mike is giving his bold prediction, he starts off with saying, "Awesome show so far, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mike." Then he says, "My bold prediction is Mike Evans goes over 100 catches this season." Now, that's really interesting because I just looked up his stats. Yeah. I know a good amount of Mike Evans stats, but I can't say I know every single one. He has not had 100 receptions in his career. The closest he came was in 2016 when he had 96. Yeah. He started every single game. Even last season had 79. That was the third best in his career. His second best was 86 at 2018. Now, if we're talking about the legacy of Mike Evans and building that Hall of Fame resume, and we've talked about the record that he had, can you imagine him turning 30 this year on August 21st?
31.
Sorry, 31. Yeah. You're right. Him turning 31 this year on August 21st. Him getting 100 receptions for the first time in his career post the age of 30. I mean, that's a heck of an accomplishment. I don't think there's many other wide receivers that can really say that. It's a bit of an odd, quirky stat, but hey, I mean, why not swing for the fences? And it goes back to Liam Cohen and his ideology of players, not plays.
No, you're right. And the interesting thing too about this and why this could happen is, remember, we're going to be seeing a lot more three wide receiver sets. And with that, not just three receivers on the field at one time, Matt, but also the fact that we're going to be seeing bunch formations, right? So when you're in a bunch formation, which is three receivers, kind of like trips, that's typically, the formation. So you've got three receivers to one side, and
Yeah.
one of those guys is the outside guy, and then you essentially have two slot receivers within that cluster, that grouping. And what I like about this is putting Mike Evans inside, whether he is, wide, the first inside receiver or the second inside receiver, closer to the tight end, for example, or not the tight end, but the tackle, for example. Then then you're talking about some free releases. You're talking about creating some confusion, right? Because you have three DBs, three receivers, and they don't know which guy's going to go deep, which guy's going to run the out, which guy's going to run the shallow cross or a skinny post, etc. Right? So I think getting more free releases and using Mike Evans in the slot some could increase his
Yeah.
target volume too. So this is a little bit of a different thing. It's different when under the last couple of years, and even certainly in the Dirk Cutter years, when Mike was just the X, right? He's that split end guy. He's isolated one-on-one typically against the best corner. You really have to like that matchup. And if it's cover two, if you're the quarterback, you're going away from that matchup where Mike Evans is pretty much a decoy, right? Because you don't want to throw the ball in harm's way, unless you're Jameis Winston, and that's why
Yeah.
that's why Jameis Winston got Mike those 98 catches or 96 catches in
Yeah.
2016, because a lot of those were force fed to number
Yeah.
13.
To your point, Scott, I mean, that year in 2016, the 96 catches, he had 173
Yeah,
targets. The next closest year, in just in terms of targets, not even receptions,
yeah,
was 2015. So the season before, he had 148 targets. So
that's
there
right.
was a huge
That's
discrepancy
right.
between first and second in terms of the number of targets. But
So
then to bring it, yeah, sorry,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, so what's the difference between 2016 Mike Evans and 2017 Mike Evans? Who got drafted in the third round in 2017? Chris Godwin.
Yeah,
It was Mike Evans and nobody else really in 2016. It was Adam Humphries, right? I mean, that's really what it was, because you had Vincent Jackson, who I think was on injured reserve after the first four games that season, if my memory is correct, or maybe that was 2015. But it was Mike Evans and the Miracles at that point in time. So you didn't have
yeah.
Godwin until 2017. Then you get a credible guy opposite Mike Evans, really since Evans's rookie season, when Vincent Jackson was still capable of producing 1,000 yards. And that's what ate into a lot of those targets for Mike Evans.
And to kind of bring it all home, and then we'll get to my next bold prediction. As far as free releases and getting open, I think with Dave Canales there last season, it certainly helped, and it opened up more doors for Mike Evans than maybe weren't there the past couple of seasons. And to that point, his 1,255 receiving yards last year, that was third best in his career. So Mike still very much has got it. Now, can you imagine this season with even more opportunities and more free releases and moving into the slot, which he really didn't do at all under Dave Canales, which he could be doing with Liam Cohen? It can just provide so many new opportunities and really a great pat statting situation. So maybe he doesn't get 173 targets, but can still get a higher volume and more receptions and get to 100 receiving yards, 100 catches, like Mike was talking about that super chat. Thanks again to Mike for that bold prediction. It's fun
Yeah,
to kind of waver off and talk about. So
exactly.
my third bold prediction, and kind of like what I said at the beginning of the show, I did some positive. I did a little negative as well. I mean, I don't want to come in. I would love for the Bucs to go undefeated and everything to be sunshine and rainbows, but realistically, that's not going to happen. The Bucs are going to stumble somewhere along the way, and we're going to have to be critical and things like that. So I didn't want to come in here and be like, the Bucs are going to break every single record that's ever been created in the NFL. So my third prediction is that Logan Hall will be replaced as a starter on the defensive line this year. It's very much a make or break season for Logan Hall. The reins are going to be completely off. It's going to be either you're going to get the job done and you're going to be our starting defensive tackle for this year and next season as well, or we're going to have to look in another direction. I mean, they already kind of accounted for it by drafting Kalijah Cansey and just adding something different and realistically better to the defensive line. But, we've heard Will Golston sing his praises. We've seen, at least physically, there's been a transformation for Logan Hall in terms of getting bigger and trying to play the part. But it's time to either put up or shut up when it comes to it. Now, what's the solution if Logan Hall gets replaced? Well, that's a little bit murky. Yes, you have Will Golston back, but his snaps have really declined year after year as he gets older. Now, was that by design to give Logan Hall more snaps and other guys? Really only Todd Bowles and Casey Rogers and some of the defensive coaches can answer that. Todd Bowles also loves to talk about Mike Green a lot. So Mike Green could be some type of option. I'm not saying it's the best option.
Yeah.
But then also something reminded me back in the day when the Bucs won the Super Bowl in 2020, they made an in-season trade and got Steve McClendon from the New York Football Jets. And McClendon certainly was not a stud. He didn't make any Pro Bowls or anything like that. But he was a nice rotational piece and a guy that really helped out, especially when Vita Vea was injured for a majority of the season and didn't come back until the NFC Championship game. So this could be a situation where Logan Hall's not getting it done. Trader Jason Light gets on the phone and is able to find someone from another team. I really can't give you a name at the moment. These things just kind of have a way of bubbling up. Could be one of those rare in-season trades that you don't see too much, especially by the Buccaneers, but they try to find a replacement for Logan Hall that way. I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope Logan Hall thrives this year, but again, just trying to kind of piece everything together.
You know what? They almost replaced him this year because they were this close to drafting Illinois defensive tackle Johnny Newton. He would have been the pick had the Buccaneers not been able to get Graham Barton at number 26. So Graham Barton's off the board. If the Cowboys took him or the Packers took him one spot ahead, the Buccaneers were going to draft Illinois defensive tackle and St. Pete native Johnny Newton instead of another center, the Oregon center. They didn't like him as much as we thought that they did, and so I think that's an indication there. And Logan Hall lucked out with the fact that they did not draft the defensive tackle this year. That Aruka Roro was a player they really loved from Clemson. Had he been there in the second round, probably would have taken him with the pick. Instead, the Falcons got him. I know that was a little bit of a stinger in the Bucs war room when that happened. Congrats, Raheem Morrison. I think you got a pretty good player there. So yeah, it's interesting. Logan Hall has got to really step up this year. And just to kind of clear up any confusion you people might have, we're talking about the 3-4 defense, right? Where you do have three defensive tackles starting. When the Buccaneers are in their 4-man front, which is nickel rush, you're not going to see much of Logan Hall. He's going to have opportunities on first and second down to get to the quarterback if they pass the ball instead of run the ball. But third and long situations, obvious passing situations, when the Bucs are in nickel with that 4-man rush, it's going to be Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea. Those are the two top dogs there when it comes to rushing the passer. So big year for Logan Hall. I kind of like the guy myself. I hope he does well. But you know what? He regressed last year in terms of rushing the passer. Got better against the run, yes, but he's got to show that he can rush the passer. That's why the Bucs drafted him. He's got an incredible athletic score. That's why they made him the top pick of the second round. But he's got to show it. Speaking of defensive tackles, a couple of great articles today on pewterreport.com from Josh Capo. I just put in the chat. The first one is really interesting. It's the Bucs projected sack totals. Josh does this every year. It was just about spot on last year in 2023. So make sure you read that article. It's the predictions for all of the defensive front players, not linebackers and safeties, et cetera. It's the defensive tackles and the outside linebackers. And he's got a very interesting sack leader this year. It's not Yaya Diaby. So make sure you check that out. The other one is his defensive tackle rankings for the NFC South. Josh continues his weekly rankings of each position group in the South. And surprise, surprise, Buccaneers rank pretty well, according to Josh Capo, when it comes to defensive tackles. So check that out as well.
Yeah, please check it out. Rankings are always fun. I would like to rank at some point the best flavors of Celsius, which of course is the
I love it.
official energy drink of pewterreport.com. We always keep the vibes high on this show, so we want you to check out the vibe flavors that Celsius has, whether it's the Cosmic or Galaxy or Astro. I'm a personal huge fan of the Arctic vibe. That's my favorite out of any Celsius energy drinks. There's no sugar. It's gluten-free. It's a great way to kickstart your morning. If you want to substitute instead of coffee, go with the Celsius energy drink. Tons of flavors, so it could really get you going. If you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, if you're on the go or somewhere different than your home, go to the Celsius store locator on their website, punch in your address, and it'll tell you the closest geographical location where you can pick one up. Could be a Walmart, a health and fitness store, or it might just be your bodega.
Bodega.
And once you keep going to your bodega, you know you love Celsius, and you're like, wow, this is great, but I don't want to make 1,000 trips in one day. Can I just buy it in bulk? You can buy it in bulk. Head on over to Amazon, click on the subscribe and save. I'd recommend buying the variety pack, because variety is the spice of life, and you can get many different flavors of Celsius. So yeah, head on over to Amazon, and you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. You're in charge. You're the captain. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com.
Let's continue and wrap up Matt's list here. And
Yeah.
number 4 is a very interesting one, Matt. Probably the one that when I saw your list, I was like, woo, buddy, I can't wait to hear about this one.
Yeah, there are probably some Bucs fans gasping right now. And I want to reiterate, this is not something I am hoping that happens this year, unless it's one specific scenario. But the Bucs have been super, super lucky, really, since Tom Brady has joined in 2020 and continued with Baker last year. And you look around the league, the Bucs have been very lucky with having their starting quarterback play every single game. It is not a luxury that many teams have been able to say the same. Freak injuries happen all the time.
Yeah.
And you never know when it's going to come. Now, you add on top of that, Baker Mayfield is as tough as nails. He will play through a lot of things. We've obviously talked a lot about how the torn labrum when he was with the Browns was really detrimental to his Cleveland Browns career. And even last season, he was super banged up. He got hit early in the season against the Saints when they won in New Orleans. He got banged up so badly in that game against the Colts when they rocked the pewter jerseys that Kyle Trask came in for a game. And then he hurt his ankle later in the season. And it really limited Baker Mayfield in certain key games, especially at home against the Saints. Even when they beat the Panthers to win the division 9-0, Baker was not 100%. Now, thankfully, he got it together for the playoffs and started playing better. So, I don't know, just given the nature of style and play that Baker Mayfield has, given the amount of luck and benefit that the Bucs have had for a number of seasons, I could see a scenario this year where Baker gets hurt, hopefully doesn't miss a lot of time. Maybe it's just a game or two.
Yeah.
But someone has to start a quarterback if it's not Baker and it's Kyle Trask. Now, the other scenario that I would love to see is that the Bucs win the division. Maybe they clinch a bye or they clinch one of the top seeds where, they know they have the number 2 seed or the number 3 seed and they have nothing to play for in the final week of the season. So Todd Bowles goes, you know what? Kyle Trask, you're starting today's game. And then it could be just a very fun free-for-all of, the Baker Mayfield's fans kind of rooting against Kyle Trask. The Traskaholics rooting for Kyle Trask, saying, see, he should have been the guy the whole time. It would kind of be a little infighting between Bucs fans, but it would be juicy, juicy headlines. And I'd kind of be rooting for that type of scenario.
Yeah, no, that it's interesting. And I do see this possibly being one of those things that happen either one way or the other, Matt. It's either that maybe they clinch early and, kind of like what happened in week 18 when the Bucs lost to the Falcons. It wasn't exactly pretty. It cost Todd Bowles a win, it kind of helped put him on the hot seat a little bit for last year because they finished 8-9. Tom Brady had a losing season to end his NFL career. That was not a fun loss by any means. Tampa Bay was ahead at halftime, and then Gabbert came in the third quarter, Trask came in the fourth, and all of a sudden the Falcons caught up and beat the Bucs. So, but yeah, it's Baker took a beating last year, and thankfully none of those injuries were serious. But man, he looked awful against the Panthers. First with the ribs, then he twisted a knee in the first quarter of that game. Had 3 interceptions dropped. So we'll see what happens. He is a tough SOB, but the injuries it's something that players truly can't prevent, especially it's a collision sport. I was gonna say it's a contact sport. It's not. It's a collision sport. And when you're a quarterback and you've thrown the ball or you're getting ready to throw, you're in a prone position and anything can happen. So hopefully the Buccaneers streak of quarterbacks making every single start continues for 4 straight years, because you're exactly right, Matt. Actually 5 straight years, because Brady started every single game for 3 years, and then Baker Mayfield last year. So we'll see what happens. I really like this one coming up, your final bold prediction. This is pretty interesting, and I think out of all of your selections, you really dug for this one. Diving into the record book, Rachaad White breaks the Bucs single game TD record. So tell us more about the TD record, the single game Tampa Bay TD record. Who set it, when, and how do you see Rachaad White breaking it?
Yeah, so there's 2 players tied for the Bucs single game touchdown record with 4. Leonard Fournette did it a couple of seasons ago in a game against the Indianapolis Colts. The other one, I had it up before, it's slipping my mind at the moment. But there are 2 that have scored 4 in a game, with Leonard Fournette being the most recent. I just think with the way that Rachaad White has been utilized in this offense last season. I know Bucky Irving's in there. I know Jalen McMillan is another addition to this team, and there's a 3 wide receiver setup. I understand all of that. But Liam Cohen also, again, knows how to use his players. I don't see any less of an impact from Rachaad White with what he can do as a receiver. I think he'll only improve as a runner this year. So with all of that said, and Bucky Irving's use, if the Bucs get a game like, when they throttled the Green Bay Packers towards the end of the season, or the Christmas Eve game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that means the offense is really going to be balling out and producing and making big plays in big time moments. I totally see a realm of reality and possibility where Rachaad White just pops off for a game. We see it from time to time.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara had an insane game on Christmas years ago where he scored like 6 touchdowns. There was a guy in the Patriots, Jonas Gray, I believe his name was. He rushed for 5 touchdowns against the Colts, and then they cut him like a week later because he was late to the meeting. I can totally see a situation where the Bucs are just rolling on offense, maybe beating down on an inferior opponent, and Rachaad White just is the beneficiary of 3 goal line carries that crosses the plane for a touchdown and gets 2 receiving touchdowns as well, or vice versa, 3 receiving touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. Rachaad White is very much on the cusp of breaking out. He's really already done it as a receiver. If you could just add the other part of it as a runner, I think this is a fun one that there is some legitimacy to it, and record breaking has been quite present by the Buccaneers in recent seasons. Obviously, Tom Brady broke a lot of individual in-game records, season records. Mike Evans keeps climbing up the ladder of all-time touchdowns, and obviously he has like every Bucs receiving record. So why not break a different record this year and go with Rachaad White to surpass Leonard Fournette? With Leonard's 4 touchdowns, Rachaad White gets 5 touchdowns this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool statistic, and 5 touchdowns. Boy, whoever has Rachaad White on their fantasy team, that would be a very happy day, because you're probably going to win your week unless you have some really crappy players. Otherwise, I remember I had Corey Dillon as a rookie back when he played for the Bengals as a 2nd-round pick, and I think he broke Jim Brown's rookie rushing record on Thursday Night Football. And he had 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards rushing. And I mean, like, I won my fantasy week on that game with that one performance by Corey Dillon. So Yeah, that would be something. And this is
One
a
last
guy.
update.
Yeah,
Sorry, one last
yeah.
update. The other people that were tied with 4 touchdowns. So it's Leonard Fournette. It's also tight end Jimmy Giles and
Yeah,
Doug Martin. So
yeah,
3 are tied with 4 touchdowns, with Leonard Fournette being the most recent.
yeah. So
So
yeah, it could happen. 5 touchdowns. What makes it plausible too is these are total touchdowns, not just receiving touchdowns or
right.
rushing touchdowns. And Rashad White could have one of those games where he gets 3 rushing touchdowns and a pair of receiving scores. Or vice versa. He could have a big day as a receiver, taking advantage of some matchups. Remember, not only is he going to be used in the screen game where he was incredibly effective last year, catching
Yeah.
3 touchdown passes, but he's also going to be motioned outside and isolated in a one-on-one, because I'm sure Liam Cohen and Baker Mayfield want to see, okay, how are you going to cover Rashad White? You're going to walk a linebacker down there? Okay, Rashad White probably has the speed edge on the linebacker. You're going to walk a corner down because he's essentially flanked out as a wide receiver. All right, fine. He's going to have a size advantage at 6'1", 225 pounds, So it's going to be very interesting to see how Liam Cohen uses him in these matchups. And remember, go back to that Packers game. Dave Canales did the smart thing by putting him in the slot and just basically running 4 verts and threw him a touchdown pass. So he can get it done a lot of ways.
And I also feel like at times, even though Canales was so run stubborn, they would get to the red zone and the goal line, and then all of a sudden he would get pass happy. So I feel like Rashad White didn't even get as many rushing touchdown opportunities as he could have had, because Canales kind of strayed away from it for whatever reason. But anyway, let's get to this super chat from Realtor David Zussman. Thank you so much, David, for the $4.99 super chat, who says, we are sure sweeping the Panthers. We will decrease the runs down the middle for little to no gains by a minimum of 70% without Canales. Yep. Hallelujah.
That may not be a bold prediction. That just might be just a flat old prediction, because I think it's going to come true on both of those accounts. David, I think you're spot on there. I think that those plays that were DOA, dead on arrival, you're going to see Baker Mayfield have the option to audible out of them now, which is going to be very helpful. And I still think the Panthers have got a long way to go. I think Canales could get the job done. I really do. He's a very charismatic guy. You're going to see him attract more and more free agents if they can draft good players. And I think they had a pretty good draft this year. If they can continue to do that, I think they're 3 years away from legitimately contending, just because that roster is still very bottom of the barrel. But he's the right guy to get the job done. Can David Tepper be patient enough? That's the biggest thing. And who knows?
That is the biggest question. It would be a huge disappointment if the Bucs don't sweep the Panthers this year. I mean, those are gimme wins for a team that it isn't even the favorite to win the NFC South. A lot of people have the Falcons, but this is going to be a scratch it, claw it out type of division championship this year for whoever wins it. So, I mean, you have to win the gimme games against the Panthers. I don't know how much they'll improve this season, but I do agree. I think they have the right guy in there, and give it some more time, and you might have something. Obviously, a lot of that is on Bryce Young, but we obviously are fans of Canales, the person. But the Bucs have to win those games.
The Bucs have to win those games, and you know what? You have to go on the Bucs cruise next year, because it's going to be a fun time. The Pewter reporters are going to be there. You should be there too. A lot of Buccaneer players are going to be there as well.
We're on the Bucs cruise. Of course, we're playing pool volleyball.
Hey, we on the Bucs cruise, of course. Anytime I say Tampa, they will say Bay. Tampa! Hey! Tampa!
Hey! Tampa! Hey! We're on the Bucs cruise. Of course, I've got my Super Bowl 37 hardware. What do you think?
We're on the Bucs cruise, and of course we had a pirate night. Arr!
Arr!
Join the fun with hundreds of Bucs fans on the 3rd annual Tampa Bay Bucs cruise, which sets sail March 7th through the 10th, 2025, on the beautiful Celebrity Silhouette ship. I've heard nothing but great things about this cruise. Can't wait to take part in it next year. The 3-night cruise begins in Fort Lauderdale and visits Key West and Bimini, Bahamas. Last year's cruise had Yaya Diaby, Rashad White, who Matt was just talking about, Luke Gedeke, K-Dot, and Jamel Dean, Super Bowl 37 MVP Dexter Jackson, Hall of Famer Warren Sapp, Gene Deckerhoff, and Nathan Elliott, among others. Even more players are expected next year, and they've already got confirmations from Derek Brooks and Brad Johnson, too. That's pretty cool. I just saw that the other day.
Maybe he'll do a trick shot.
He
He's big with the
probably
trick
will.
shots.
Probably will, yeah. There's going to be photo and autograph opportunities with the players, raise the red flags, sail away party, VIP parties with players, special player interviews, a water ball volleyball challenge, Bucs trivia contests, fun games, and more. Reserve your cabin now on the 2025 Tampa Bay Bucs cruise, where drinks, including alcohol, Wi-Fi, and tips are all included. And I hear they also have an old-fashioned station just for me. I love that. With the $200 per person deposit, it's that simple. Just put down your deposit, reserve your cabin. It's refundable until August 16th. So you have like over a month to think about it. Visit TampaBayBucsCruise.com. That's TampaBayBucsCruise.com, or call 1-800-975-7112. That's some fun stuff right there. I can't wait for that. Just like you all can't wait to hear my 5 bold predictions. Let's start off with the one that I said in my Pewter Report roundtable. Marquise Watts ends up as a starting outside linebacker. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I just believe in the guy. We had him on the show, friend of the program. He makes you want to believe. I mean, there's a believability about him, and then you watch him on the field. He's just different. He's 6'1", 250 pounds. He's got some bend to his game. He can dip and rip like nobody's business in terms of rushing the passer. I think the biggest thing for Marquise Watts is really just in camp, but even more so in the preseason. Show that you can set the edge. Be more than just a designated pass rusher. We know he can get the pass rush win rate, 23% last year, led the team. But I think the biggest thing is being able to set the edge in the run game, being physical in that sense of his game. He's bulked up to 250 pounds now. He was in the 240s last year. He's undersized, Matt, but so was Shaq Barrett, and he was a very stout run defender, a very underrated run defender, very much a complete pass rusher, defensive end, outside linebacker, whatever you want to call him. And to me, I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't know, but there's something about this guy. He is no stranger to the weight room. I mean, that's him next to Yaya Diaby. And Diaby's got some guns. So,
exactly.
And both of these guys are loaded for bear this year. And that may be at the end of the season, you're starting outside linebackers. I'm not saying he's going to win the job out of camp or the preseason necessarily. I think Chris Braswell is going to give him a run for his money. I think Braswell is legit. I think this guy is absolutely legit. But it's a situation where, like Diaby, Matt, by the end of the season, who knows who could be that starter opposite Yaya. And we saw him take Joe Tryon-Schwenka's starting job by November.
I'm happy you brought up the dip and rip things, because I really think that his different pass rushing moves, him beating the guys that he beat in the preseason, having more than one way to get to the quarterback was so big for him, and being dominant in the preseason. And there's a couple of ways that you could look at it by saying, all right, it's the preseason, that offensive tackle is a traffic cone. You should get by him. But it wasn't just the case scenario of, okay, Marquise Watts is bigger, faster, stronger. He's just going to run over the offensive tackle and get to the quarterback. He was winning with legitimate moves, which is why it looked so sweet when he did it against Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans in that game last season. And like Shaq Barrett, later on in the season, one of the best things that Shaq Barrett had going for him was his quick get off. As soon as the ball was snapped, he would time it. Now, Shaq Barrett got a lot of offsides penalties because he would try to do it perfectly. And there was a game later in the season where Marquise Watts did get an offsides penalty because he was trying to time the snap. Now he has another season under his belt. Maybe he can get that timing down a little bit better Plus, he's bigger, like we just talked about, and he has those moves. That will help when he goes up against the number one competition. And I agree. I don't think it's going to be something where it could happen right away. It does worry me a little bit if Marquise Watts does become the starter. Is it because Marquise Watts absolutely dominated, or was it because Chris Braswell didn't really develop and JCS is kind of
he was the last man standing, right?
Exactly. So that's the other flip side of it. Of positive for Marquise Watts. Is it the best for the Bucs? We will find out, but it definitely is a good bold prediction.
Yeah, exactly. The other predictions, I'll run through these just if you're listening on the audio podcast, and we'll get into them here in just a second. Kalijah Kancey leads the Bucs with 10 sacks. Number 3, Mike Evans leads the NFL with 15 touchdowns. Number 4, Zion McCollum leads the Bucs with 4 interceptions. And number 5, the Bucs defense finally gets 50 sacks this year. So those are the predictions there. Let's talk about number 2. Kalijah Kancey leads the Bucs with 10 sacks. This is a player too that I think had some momentum at the end of the season. That sack right there of Jared Goff, who was his favorite quarterback to sack. 2 of his 5.5 sacks came against Goff. His first sack,
very true,
in the NFL came against Goff in the creamsicle game, which was really his first game start to finish. Remember, he started the game against the Vikings after missing training camp in the preseason, played like 11 snaps, tweaked the cap again, was out until after the bye week. So I think with Kalijah Kancey, what I like about this, Matt, is Yaya Diaby is a force, and Vita Vea is a force, and Kalijah Kancey is going to be playing in between those guys. And the way that Todd Bowles can set up his defense, he is going to put Kalijah in that 3 technique position, isolated one-on-one against a guard, right? And Vita can play that traditional nose tackle and kind of draw the center and the other guard's attention. And it's just going to free him up for a lot of opportunities. Kalijah is going to play on first, second, and third down, so he's going to have the opportunity to get more sacks than say, another player like Logan Hall, who we talked about earlier, who's just not going to be on the field in a lot of those obvious pass rushing downs. And I think the other thing too is defensive tackles that are as quick and agile as he is and determined, they're closer to the quarterback, right? So you don't have to turn the corner per se. The fastest point between, or the fastest distance between, 2 points is a straight line. And so you're lining up as close to the quarterback as any other position on the field. And it's simply a matter of beating a guy. And his double hand swipe is just deadly. And after a year's worth of watching film on himself, studying, his successes, his failures, what worked, what didn't, how to overcome blocks. And then you throw in the fact that, I don't know, he's actually going to have a training camp this year, knock on wood.
Yeah.
It's going to give him 4 or 5 weeks to just simply get better. That's going to be the lab where he's going to have pads on. He can use these moves one-on-one against the likes of Cody Mauch, Sua Opeta, Graham Barton, Ben Bredesen, and I think be ready to go. And I believe that Tampa Bay will have a double-digit sacker this year, and I think Kalijah Kancey is in line to get 10.
The wheels are very much turning in motion and in the right direction for Kalijah Kancey. Let's remember, Scott, after he came back from that calf injury that really cost him the beginning of the season, he was the defensive rookie of the month for the month of November. So he wasn't just playing. He was playing at the highest level amongst his peers of rookies in the NFL last season. If he gets 10 sacks or double-digit sacks at all, he has to be in the running and in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, for a defensive tackle to get 10-plus sacks, you really don't see it that much. And who better to model his game after than a fellow Pittsburgh alum like Aaron Donald, who was, Chris Jones obviously is very good for the Chiefs, but Donald, who just retired, is the statue of perfection when it comes to, defensive tackle greatness. So Kancey, I think, obviously would want to follow in his footsteps. And for the 10 sacks, it's ripe for the taking. We really like Yaya Diaby, but he's not a premier pass rusher just yet. The Bucs don't have that stud just yet that is going to take away all the sacks from everybody else. So this is very, very possible for Kalijah Kancey, especially just playing a full training camp and a preseason and getting his land legs or sea legs under him
Yeah.
this season. There's going to be a lot of expectations for Kalijah Cansey, but understandably so.
And I think the thing too is you look in this situation here. This is Kalijah Cansey going up against Penei Sewell, the right tackle for the Lions, and that's because Cansey's a bit of a chess piece. You're going to see him move around the line and get locked up in favorable matchups. Remember, one of the sacks that Vita Vea had last year came when he was basically playing right defensive end on Will Levis. That was the sack where he had his helmet turned halfway around. So Todd Bowles will move those guys around, and I think he's going to dream up even more ways to use Kalijah Cansey. I was talking with Coach today via text, and all he's doing is just rehabbing his knee this summer. He's not doing anything else. There's really no vacations, right? He's hobbled, so he's hitting the rehab, and all the time he has in the world to just think of new ways to put up pressure packages against other offenses. So I think that's going to be fun to see. Mike Evans leads the NFL with 15 touchdowns. Matt, could have done it last year. How many times did we see Mike Evans get tackled at the 1 yard line, for example? This is one of those plays right here against the Indianapolis Colts where he was tackled right there at the 1 yard line. That's not a touchdown, and it could have been. And then I think he had one against the Lions in the playoffs. He had one against the Texans, I believe.
He had that egregious drop too, where he had it in his hands in the end zone, and then he admitted after the game. He ended up scoring, so maybe it still would have evened out. But he said, "Oh, I was thinking about which fan I'm going to give the football to," and he just dropped it. So, that's another example of Mike more touchdowns than Mike could have had. But the good news is Mike. He already led the NFL in touchdowns last season. Yes, he was tied with Tyreek Hill at 13, but he's really not that far off, which is really nice.
He's had 14 before. That's the Bucs single season record. He's had now a couple of 13 touchdown seasons, including last year. I think 15's coming, and I think he and Baker just have a connection in the red zone. It's only going to get better in year 2. So I would not be surprised if Mike Evans has 15 touchdowns. He said he wants to break Randy Moss's record. What's that? 22 in a season? 2022?
Yeah, it's pretty high up there. Hey, it's good to Mike Evans has got his own bold prediction there. So
I know.
Last thing I'll say about Mike is, again, I will always appreciate Mike Evans. One of the best bets I ever made last season was over 875.5 receiving yards for Mike Evans. I haven't seen what his stat line is this year, but if it's under 1,000, I am taking that bet again for the 2024 season. So if you want to bet on Mike Evans receiving yards or really anything football related, the best place to go and do it is over at mybookie.ag. Sign up using the promo code Pewter. That's Pewter. Get a first deposit bonus with MyBookie. And I know football's not here yet, but there are many things to hold us over. I can't wait for football to start, but we still have baseball going on. Obviously, with the 4th of July tomorrow, that's big for baseball. And the Copa America soccer tournament is going on. I know it wasn't great for Team USA, but there's other teams that you can watch and bet on. It's been very exciting so far, the Copa America, and it's provided a lot of great betting opportunities. Lionel Messi's still in it. So I'm checking the lines every single day. I know Argentina plays like Peru or something like that. They should win. Here's another nugget of stats for you guys. Argentina has reached the final in 5 of the last 7 tournaments. And Brazil, who's also in this tournament, has played in the last 2 finals. So we're probably looking at a Brazil versus Argentina showdown. But a bet on one of them to win the tournament, both are at plus money despite their favorite status. It's well worth that play at MyBookie. And whether I'm betting on soccer, baseball, or football, I'm putting my money down at MyBookie. It's my preferred platform. For those of you in the gang who haven't signed up yet, this is your chance. Sign up, make a deposit using the promo code Pewter, that's Pewter, and start playing with house money today. Bet anything, anytime, from anywhere, only with MyBookie. And check out their online casino as well. They got all the casino games, craps, baccarat, blackjack, roulette. They got it all. So check out mybookie.ag.
Yep, and we'll continue on with the predictions here. Coming close to the end of the show, so I'll wrap these up pretty quickly. Zion McCollum leads the Bucs with 4 interceptions. You know, this is bold because the guy doesn't have
It's
one
bold for a
interception.
reason.
Yeah, he doesn't have one single interception in his Buccaneer career yet. He dropped one against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Christmas Eve that still haunts him. We talked about that on the Pewter Report podcast. He did have one in the preseason against the Steelers, but he's going to be a full-time starter. And I think, Matt, if you go back and look at the path that Carlton Davis, who was never a good interceptor, had, his first couple of seasons, he came close to getting pass breakups. This is from Zion McCollum's rookie season. Drake London getting the catch here over him. Came close to getting pass breakups. Then the next year had a bunch of pass breakups. And then in 2020, what happened? He led the team with 4 interceptions, and the Bucs went to the Super Bowl. I think this is kind of a stair-step thing for Zion McCollum as well. He came close to getting some pass breakups as a rookie. Last year, he got the pass breakups, didn't come away with the picks. Now it's time to get some interceptions. He has all the ability to do it. He had 15 interceptions at Sam Houston State. So this guy has the ability to get some interceptions, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does it and leads the Bucs this year.
Zion has put himself in situations to take the ball away, whether it's the preseason or in the regular season. I know he started a lot, but he'll have even more opportunities. I hope for his sake, Jamel Dean is healthy, because I can see a situation where Dean doesn't play a lot and they just attack either Bryce Hall or whoever ends up replacing Jamel Dean. So hopefully everyone's healthy. I definitely would bet on McCollum to have more interceptions than Jamel Dean. But also the safeties could cut into that as well. But certainly everyone would be pumped if he got 4 interceptions this year.
Yep. And then wrapping up, we've got number 5, Bucs defense finally gets 50 sacks this year. Todd Bowles' defense has come close every year to getting 50, at 48 last year, 46 the year before. I want to say it was 47 or 48 the year prior. They just miss the mark each single season dating back to 2019. They get close. They're above 45, but they're not at 50. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka counts for some of those because he misses some sacks he should get. This is the year they're going to cobble together 50. Led by Kalijah Kancey's 10. I think it's going to happen. So, we'll see. I think this is the year they get 50. They're not going to lead the league. They're not going to be like the Eagles or the Ravens, those years. But I think they hit 50, maybe a couple more this year. And they've got enough young talent along the line to pass rush. We know that you can pencil in Antoine Winfield Jr. for 3, 4, 5, 6, which is what he had last year. So they'll cobble together the sacks. Tyke Smith will add a couple blitzing from the slot as well. I think
Levante David usually chimes in here or there as well. And
4.5 last year.
Yeah, for all the complaints we've had about the Bucs getting to the quarterback or, setting up a 4 or 5-man pass rush, they still end up like top 10, sometimes even top 5 in the league in sacks. So if you do get a better pass rush, the blitzes will always eventually come home and work for Todd Bowles. So, I think outside of like Mike and his 15 touchdowns, I think that last one is the most likely to occur really on either of our lists.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. If you're Todd Bowles, you definitely want that for sure.
Yeah.
And if you want better medical care, well, I've got a name for you. Christopher Lugo with the Bay Area Modern Medical Center. If you're tired of feeling like just another number in a waiting room, then check out the Bay Area Modern Medical Center. It's where I go for my primary care, as well as my weight loss, as well as my testosterone treatments. I am down to 206 pounds. I've lost 10 pounds this off season just by going to Christopher Lugo, getting testosterone. It boosts my workouts. I have tremendous workout today in the gym. Not that I'm trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything like that. I'm just trying to be 52 years old and healthy, and it works. So he believes that you deserve the personalized care that's going to put your health and well-being first. And he's got 24 years of experience doing it. So whether it's weight loss, anti-aging, hormone replacement therapy, including testosterone, or primary care, if you're sick and you need to see a doctor, Christopher Lugo, Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Visit them on the web, BAMMC.com, or give them a call at 844-789-BAMM. the difference is Christopher practices concierge medicine. That means no more waiting rooms, no more rushing through appointments. Imagine a doctor who takes the time to go over your extensive labs, discusses your diet and exercise plan, provides personalized vitamin and supplement recommendations to optimize your health. Same-day appointments are also available. So go to the web, BAMMC.com, and make your appointment today. You're not going to be disappointed. He's a fantastic guy and could not recommend Christopher Lugo in Bay Area Modern Medical Center enough.
So set up those appointments, and then after that, make sure you follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. We got the podcast. We got Scott's Pewter Pulses. We got different
New one
things
coming
from press
tomorrow.
conferences and practice. Another one coming tomorrow, right on the 4th of July. So please follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a comment below as well. If you have your own bold predictions, we will take a look at it. So that's going to do it for us on today's show. Just a reminder again, no show tomorrow. It is the 4th of July. So happy 4th of July to everybody. We'll be back to 4 shows next week, starting on Monday with Roll Call after this 4th of July weekend. Yeah, can't wait. Looking forward to it. So until then, for Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Have a great 4th of July, everybody. Out.
Happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday.